Hey guys, what's up? Jay back again with another article here for IND. Look at the CNNMoney.com article. We're given Chaos by Design, the inside story of disorder, disarray, and uncertainty at Google, and why it's all part of the plan, they hope. Great article here. Really interesting. First, kind of taking a perspective at it, since it was written on October 2nd of 2006. It's definitely interesting to look at how Google has evolved since this article was written. Back then, Google was only eight. It was only worth about 125 billion. I say only, but in comparison of what it's worth today, it's a small shot. One thing I found really interesting in looking back, this is a line that what concerns investors is whether Google can come up with a second act. There is nothing suggesting that the growth engine ad-supported search is in trouble, but it is clear from Google's tentative lurches into new forms of advertising and its spaghetti method of product development, in parentheses, tossed against wall, see if it sticks, parentheses, that the company is searching for ways to grow beyond the well-run core. It's the reason, for example, that Google requires all engineers to spend 20% of their time pursuing their own ideas. Successful second acts are exceedingly rare in the technology business, or in any business for that matter. Microsoft followed Windows with Office. Intel jettisoned its memory chip line to rule microprocessors. Even Apple, which executed one of the most remarkable rebirths ever with the iPod, has had to go through a painful decade to get there. Looking at this, obviously we know now that they've come out with plenty. They have not only developed and redesigned the whole search engine realm, but they came out with Android, which is now competing with Apple for the iPhone Android services. Android being the online services available through cellular devices, very similar to what we see with the iPhone nowadays. I just think that's very interesting to kind of point out that they have had this second act, and they're now continuing to evolve and stay innovative. This is obviously somehow it's almost unbelievable. It's just 5 years later we're talking, but kind of looking at the chaos that they're talking about. Whether it is looking at these workers spending 20% of their time working on stuff that may not have anything to do with the projects they're supposed to be working on, but merely just to potentially enhance the products available. When you think about the 1.3 million square foot headquarters, 2 stories with a festive cafe, sand volleyball courts, conference room, motorized scooters. This sounds more like a day camp or a summer camp than it does a workplace. But as we've learned, this is the type of environment that is needed to really enhance creativity and innovation. With this, they're able to use this uncertainty, this sporadic nature, to create innovation. If let's say I'm sitting here and in another second I think of a great new app for Gmail, where I'm able to send picture messages that talk. As a picture of me and it talks to someone, I could do that. I could take my 20% and just spend it right now. And it's very it's very sporadic. It's very spur of the moment, but it's also very innovative and it enhances creativity. It doesn't, while there are guidelines in place, the strict line can be, it's a lot looser here than at other companies where you work and innovation, creativity is all processed after your work is done. When sometimes the best ideas come to you in the midst of work to enhance the work you were doing, and you might forget about that 2 or 3 days later when your work is finally done. I also think it's very interesting that they compare Google to Galaxy, which was a firm that was sizzling in the Silicon Valley in the 1990s. It spared a lot of similarities to Google. Young young employee base, hard to get a job. And their philosophy was to let people do their own thing. But the problem, at least according to our article, is Galaxy had one glaring weakness. The firm was living off one set of unusually successful products, whereas the rest of the businesses were much more modest performers. So what they had was obviously just not sustainable. They had these products that were great, but they were so far fetched and unusual that they couldn't sustain the growing means of a company. Something that's pretty interesting. When you look at Google, who has, as of when this article was written 5 years ago, released at least 83 full-fledged and test stage products, they're definitely taking a more broad look at this. They realize that they could be the next Galaxy if they don't continue to progress towards innovation through design. And this is something that I think is pretty interesting. Something that shows us that that Google is not the next Galaxy. They're not going to be stuck. So we know it now. They're not stuck within one search engine. There's an article earlier this semester we read. It was called The Beauty of Simplicity. But it talks about Google owning 57% of the market share. Google, in terms of search engine, and the one thing that sets Google apart was the simplicity of it. In a time when we need so much, the simplicity of the Google homepage is what 87% of the people said they wanted. The ease, and that's what Google gives you. It is a search, and that's it. From there, you can choose what you want, but at base, you search and you're done. Which is something that Google has been able to use to separate itself from the MySpaces and the Facebooks, which are clogged by news feeds and ads on up and down the side. And while Google has used their ad relationships, their partnerships to create a significant amount of money, they keep that simplicity on the first page, as well as the structural simplicity on every search page. It's all the same. You know where the ads are. You know what you need. You know where the hot box is, and you know where the search bar is. It's all very simple. There are buttons along the top and the sides that you can use to add additional information and stronger search tools, but it is all organized very simply, so you know exactly what you need to do to search. And when you're searching, again, something I think that is extremely overrated in today's society, where we have a strong emphasis on needing everything now and having it at our fingertips. We really underestimates Google's offering there, as well as keeping it simple. So that being said, I've had times in my life where uncertainty has produced some of the best ideas. One idea I recently proposed in a class was this thing called the grilled cheese truck, and my buddy and I made it up overnight and made a quick feasibility analysis for it, and later produced a business plan. And I've talked about this before, but this is a plan that I actually might go implement when I graduate college, because while it is ridiculous and the chaos and disarray that we made this product out of were truly unbelievable, we've created a very feasible and fun option. Maybe driving a grilled cheese truck and selling grilled cheese around Cape Cod doesn't sound ideal for everybody, but that sounds like a pretty fun job to me. And seeing at the market which is available there and the potential offering, realizing that gap has allowed us to target a market and really potentially make a living off this. While it is kind of a simpler, kind of more childish thing than what Google does, it's the same process that Google goes through with their disarray. And while from the outside it may not look like the traditional business and the traditional mold, they are keeping that creative and innovative nature without forcing it down anyone's throat. By adapting it into the atmosphere, into the culture of the company, it becomes a mainstay, something that's not expected, but just kind of done, and enhances the company that way. So with that being said, I'm going to sign off, and I'll catch you kids later. Have a good one.